righty, what's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. It's great to be with you all. Excited to be here. Excited to hang out with Viro and Nick today. Nick, thanks for hanging, man. We appreciate it. We've been hanging out with Nick for the last 30 minutes, like quote unquote backstage. So
thanks for having me. This is going to be super fun. This is an awesome opportunity just to kind of spitball about what I'm building and what I'm doing over here. And we had that 30 minutes of pre-roll it went by really fast.
It went by really fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are tuning in, you're like, what is this? What's Unicorn Finders? If you want to Google us, make sure you type in Unicorn Finders, not Unicorn Hunters. And basically, so what this is so Jake couldn't join us today. He got called into another meeting, but it's okay. Dan and I are the professional podcasters, so everything's fine.
That's right.
Basically, Dan, Jake, and I started this podcast in March of 2020. So we're almost at a 3-year mark to really just hang out, as an excuse to hang out. Dan, Jake, and I are good friends outside of work, and we didn't know how long we're going to be at home. So we started this thing, and we've pivoted a little bit over the years, but now we're really wanting to bring on companies that you probably haven't heard of doing really cool shit. And that's kind of our mission. So I hung out with Nick. We love what Nick is doing in the environmental space. So Nick, take it away, man. If you want to give a little bit about your musician background and say who you toured for, because that's pretty badass. and then let's go ahead and dive into Viro.
Yeah, so my name's Nick. I'm the founder of Viro. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. Viro is short for environment. It's an eco activity tracker, similar to like think MyFitnessPal or Strava for environmental action. So we're inspiring our users to take daily climate action or live sustainably. So instead of like in the fitness space for MyFitnessPal, it's push-ups and sit-ups and how many miles or steps you walked, we're pivoting that into recycling, composting, carpooling, a bunch of different environmental actions. And I'll back up a little bit to how I got into this. I moved to Nashville about 8 years ago from Austin, Texas, as a musician. So I graduated music school, did the whole thing, and wanted to go for the big show, for the big lights. Moved to Nashville as a bass guitar player, as you can see on my wall over here, and was fortunate enough to pick up and play with a ton of great artists, tour all over the world, playing everything from small empty bar rooms to big stadiums, festivals, the Coachellas, the Bonnaroos, all of those things. But while I was traveling to each city.
Hold on. He won't say it though. He also played with Kelsey Ballerini. Like, for those of you who know, he's not going to say it. I can tell he's not a proud, boastful gentleman like me. But
a ton of great artists. Yeah,
you played with
Kelsey,
great artists
that are doing awesome things.
Yep.
But yeah, so through each city, they all have their own architecture, their own layout, beautiful buildings. But what I noticed, no matter where I was in the world, is there's pollution in the streets. There's just trash, floating by, and there's smog in the air. There's just that hint of just a little bit of haziness. I'm like, this is really starting to weigh on my heart. I'm seeing this everywhere. You roll off the bus in the morning in some brand new city, and it looks just like the last one. So I thought, there's got to be a way to where we can inspire people, inspire a community to live more sustainably, to think about and be mindful of their daily actions, and just do their part, small things throughout the day, to live more sustainably and eco-friendly.
I love that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up. I'm going to share my screen. I'm trying to do more of this with our guests, just so people, now or in the future can watch this. So I'm going to go and present it. And then, Nick, if you kind of want to just walk through, obviously the app a little bit more and kind of the way it looks and feels. So obviously very clean UI. Obviously I'm a big fan of that. I mean, talk about this, right? So the streak, reduced steps. I mean, talk kind of about this.
So it's it's paralleling the fitness daily activity tracker. So this is meant to be used every day. Users, when they're onboarded, they set up how many eco actions, as we call it, how many environmentally friendly actions they want to do each day, and that of course closes their ring. So if they choose 3 or 5, by each action they do, it'll begin to close that ring, and they hit their goal. We have streaks as well, but throughout that whole process, people, they're composting, they're recycling, they're bringing their own bag, they're refilling a water bottle, tons of different things. And everyone has their own things that they are interested in. So we're kind of going through, you're seeing, right there, 3.2 pounds of carbon pollution reduced. Right there, one of the things I'm very passionate about is I wanted to be able to quantify this measured action. I wanted people, when they walk by a recycling bin, they just throw that plastic bottle in there, they feel good for a minute and they just keep walking. But I was able to do some deep dives and worked with the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. They have a list of 100 best green practices, and it shows, it quantifies the pollution reduction of each of these like kind of household things we can do in our daily life. So it really provides like a measurement, like if we can do all these good things and feel good in our hearts, but if we can give some hard numbers and some hard data, we can really start to track it and we can really internalize it and know and validate our impact. So it's something I'm really, really proud of, that we were able to, just kind of tie in measured action with each person.
I didn't ask you this backstage, quote unquote, but are you guys, is the goal to just measure CO2 reduction? Is that kind of like y'all's main focus right now?
Yeah, that is one of the primary metrics, how they're measuring greenhouse gas emissions, which is through a thing called CO2e, and that's just the way that we wanted to quantify.
Okay. Okay. Is there? I mean, do you have a specific number you want to get to? I mean, 3 pounds. I mean, that sounds like a lot, right? I mean, is there? I don't know. Is there any data that off the top of your head about like what you should be at or what's good? Like, I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Well, 3 pounds, it does sound like a lot. And if you think about it, though, if you ride your bike 3 miles, to work and back, or you hop an electric, you hop an electric vehicle, what I'm saying, you're taking public transportation, you're able to minimize what would be like a single passenger gasoline vehicle. And those spit out emissions like crazy. And so, that's kind of,
I love that. No, I love that.
So, Nick, I want to ask. So, I know that there's a rewards functionality of your app as well to encourage behavior more so than just as a gamification piece, right? Talk to us a little bit about that, and maybe some of the brands or partners that you worked with. I know we were talking about Liquid Death before, just to kind of explain, hey, like this is obviously great for the environment and that should be enough, but also that you're getting some brands involved.
Well, what's so inspiring to me is our user base, our people are passionate about sustainability. They're passionate about climate action, and they take it to the extreme. And so they live their life, with this in mind at every facet of their life. And so we're really wanting to connect these climate conscious consumers with brands that are also eco-friendly, right? They have a messaging, they have sustainability practices, and we are connecting them. We're sitting right in the middle there where brands can, release their message and they can, hyper target it to our group of people that actually care, that respect it, and they want to identify with those kinds of brands. So consumers, we're seeing more and more, they're wanting to, personify a brand. When they're wearing a hat, they want to represent the brand and themselves.
Yeah. I love that. Danny.
Very cool. So Nick, I know that you're traveling all over and everything else, and you kind of came up with the app in your mind, right? But talk to us a little bit about how you then built the app and went through some of the iterations and changes of creating something that you were proud and ready to put into the App Store. What kind of thought process, what kind of, talking conversations did you have with people to ultimately decide that this was your path forward?
Yeah, so I was touring full time, and then COVID happened, so everything shuts down. And I had always been, entrepreneurial. I'd always been extremely into tech and products and things that people are building. And I knew that is where I wanted to go long term. And I thought, hey, this is my time. This is my time to pivot now. And I'd always been kind of ruminating, thinking about this idea. And so I decided, you know what, we're going to do this thing. We're going to really, put some pitch decks together, go out there and start spreading the word. Well, there was Amazon headquarters. They have a new building here in Nashville. So when that building opened, they hosted a startup competition, early stage startup competition. So, I went in with my idea of Viro. Over that weekend, I built a super simple MVP using a no-code tool. And
which I'm just curious, which no-code tool did you use?
It was called Your V1. Jeremy Redmond, he's a Nashville guy. He went in with me and we worked together to really, I mean, it was a super simple, like we were working all night to get the ring to close, you know what I'm saying? But we partnered with a company in town, Eat Well Nashville, which is, they do really great healthy food, vegan, vegetarian for people. And so there was kind of just the idea, you know, we got it into a web browser, and won first place in the competition. So kind of having that validation, having that, you know, little stamp from Amazon and, you know, kind of opened up doors with them, but it has really allowed me to kind of, hey, this is for real. We can really take this and run with this thing. So then we started really just mapping out what's it going to actually look like. You know, we have revenue models, we have our business model already pat down, but what we wanted to do was kind of start building UI UX, start getting user flow, getting feedback from some people. So that was what we did. So that start of competition was in March of last year, so almost a year ago. Built all the way up until then, started building an online community, online presence, and launched to app stores in December. So we're about 6 or 7 weeks out from our big launch.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we caught y'all early. I love it.
Yeah.
What, you know, we talked about, you know, kind of what the future holds. And I mean, well, it's kind of a few things. One, talk about your customer base, because you said something that was very interesting to me, just about how passionate they are. So talk about that. And then dream a little bit, right? Kind of that dream question, like where do you see Viro going, and kind of what's your goal? So kind of a two-sided question.
So what I'm finding that's resonating with our user base and kind of the ideation of Viro, number one, they're extremely passionate, and I love them. And I've been living this way, you know, for years, but I'm finally able to put it into a tool and into people's hands. So they can track their impact, you know, they can measure what matters to them, and they're resonating with it well. Very passionate, very engaged, and they're giving me feedback, you know, back and forth on, you know, each individual action, because different people, you know, we got a big composting group. People love composting, and the way we had the layout, we had different items you could compost, but we didn't have necessarily just a total weight. So I didn't know this, but the composting group, they love to actually weigh through like a little kitchen scale before they compost, so they actually know their metrics there. And so, you know, we added that as a feature in.
Wouldn't know that.
Exactly. So there's so many different facets of this, of sustainability and of being eco-minded, and they're passionate and fervent, and we're just trying to honestly keep up with our group. But one of the things that I think is resonating so well is you have the idea of your carbon footprint, right? So your carbon footprint, it is literally your footprint. So you're looking behind and you're thinking, man, I feel guilty for these things that I've done behind me, right? But the way we're positioning Viro is we're looking forward, we're looking ahead, and we're saying, hey, let's not feel bad about some stuff. Let's take positive steps every day, and let's track it, and let's measure it. And so we have this whole climate doom and gloom, feel bad about who you are for just existing. I mean, we're going to use electricity. We're going to create energy, you know?
Right.
We want to take a spin on that. So instead of, you know, angry memes and, you know, people lighting up Twitter for every little thing, let's take a positive spin on this. And let's say I'm doing these good things, and here is how I'm measuring it, and here's how I'm tracking what matters to me most.
How do y'all make, go ahead, Dan.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, how do y'all make money, or what's kind of the long-term kind of play for money? Is it just brand sponsorships and deals and that side? Is there going to be, you know, I don't know, is there a monthly cost eventually? Like what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we'll eventually go to the freemium model, but right now we're, you know, aggregating our user base.
Sure.
We're testing 100%. Our ideas. We're learning more than we're focused on, you know, creating revenue. But
for sure,
brand partnerships will definitely be a thing. That's direct advertisement to a, you know, passionate group of people. But how we're positioning ourselves is, you know, we're an app going straight to consumers first, which is, you know, the exact opposite of what any investor wants to hear, because it's hard to milk that money out of people, and that's really not what we're trying to do. But we are trying to do is set up brand awareness. We're trying to create a positive, engaging platform that people can identify with as a lifestyle. And then, you know, I think in about probably 2 months, we're going to pivot straight to direct to businesses. So we're going to get this in employees' hands and have those businesses be able to track their positive impact. And we're going to help businesses meet their net zero and carbon neutral goals. So that's top down from administration. That's a global issue now. And so we're going to really tie in with ESG reporting. We're going to tie in with businesses becoming net zero.
You answered my question. I was just going to ask what your path to business to looking and keeping track of ESG. And obviously there's huge pushes beyond just ESG scores and everything else, but a desire for consumers to want to know how businesses are tracking. And I would imagine that this, makes it fundamentally easier to track and display. And I'm sure you guys have cool reports and stuff like that you can push out to be able to track that. I know the app is still relatively new. Have you been able to aggregate how many pounds of CO2 we've?
Yeah, we're over 3,000 right now.
Hell yeah.
Insane.
There you go.
I mean,
that's awesome.
So it's really good. And, for businesses, I think the doors are going to fly wide open for us because employees also want to take ownership. They want to provide good and they want to be that person passionate within their workforce, right? And so I think that we'll have ambassadors within each company that are asking for it. So we're not really having necessarily to do hard sales. And here's the thing: when something that comes across your desk that's a B2B platform, and they're saying, "Hey, you should use this," you're like, it's not sexy. It's it's a bunch of grids and graphs and Excel spreadsheets. But what we're doing is really kind of lighting up the consumer space. So when this does come across your desk as, "Hey, this is an initiative our business is going to use," they go back through it and they're like, "Oh, this is cool. I want to identify with this. I want to actually use this."
I love that.
That's awesome.
Cool.
How much is there a lot of competition in this space right now? Obviously there's competition for eyeballs, but you do a lot of legacy apps or anything else that exists, or?
There really isn't. There are a few. And they're kind of gimmicky in my opinion. I talk a lot about how Viro is not gamification. So I don't want this to be a Duolingo or an Angry Birds type of cartoonish UI experience. I want users to feel like this is a part of them. This is metrics. This is an activity tracker, kind of like fitness. So it's not a toy or toyish in nature. There are a few that are doing that. You're a panda or you're a polar bear and you're following them around through the Arctic, and it's like, that's not really what I want to do.
Sure.
There's a few things. There's a big push in this space of making you feel guilty and then paying your fair share per month is like a subscription model. So let me give you a quick assessment on how bad your lifestyle is, and then at the end you just input your credit card. So I'm sure they're crushing it. If they can get people that are that willing, then I totally understand. But yeah, for us, I want people to use this thing. I want people to actually make a positive impact in their life and in the world. And I think that's where we're going to excel.
I love that. Nick, as we wrap up here, last two questions for you. One, what's been your biggest pivot so far? Right? Like where have you been like, whoa, we can't do that anymore? And then two, what's your biggest advice for individuals who want to start something?
I will answer the biggest pivot with also the biggest hurdle. And this is something that's personal to me is, I have built Viro behind the scenes kind of, and I've talked about it a little bit. I haven't been building in public as much as I have wanted to, but I also haven't done this one thing, which is hold that camera up and turn that video onto my face and talk about what I'm building and why I'm so passionate about it, to then engage others. I feel like I've really missed the ball there, because I have to use my voice to get this out there, right? And then I want to encourage other people to then create content about this product. But if I'm not leading it, if I'm not taking charge and taking initiative of being that person, being the face of something, then I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Also, it's pretty hard to turn that camera around and speak right into it and that vertical stuff. So I'm working up the courage to do it. And that is something that will be coming in the next, hopefully tomorrow, maybe today.
I love that. You should do it today. You should do it right after this.
Exactly.
And then your biggest piece of advice for founders, for people who want to get started, who are just scared to get started.
Go for it. Create opportunity. I think I'm going to write a book about creating opportunity, about putting yourself in situations. It's not just a networking advice, but putting yourself in situations. I didn't think I was anywhere near ready to go do an Amazon startup competition with a pitch deck and an idea. You know what I'm saying? But I showed up. Right. I ran hard, I hustled, but these events that I've gone to meet people, to say yes, be a yes guy when somebody asks you something. If someone just wants to spitball and chat over coffee, say yes, because it opens up things. And it's bigger than just networking. It is more about just connecting the world together, and seeing where doors open, and just go chase them down and create opportunity for yourself.
I love that. I love that. Cool. Danny, anything else, buddy?
No, I think we're good.
Awesome. Well, Nick, thank you so much, man, for joining us today. We appreciate it. Stay in touch. Obviously, I let you know we're trying to build a community among founders, so we will loop you in once we get that executed. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. Have a good rest of your day.
Yep. See you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
I think it's cool. I mean, here's the deal, right? And Nick, Nick's going to see this. For me, I don't. When I say I'm not passionate,
just say you hate the environment.
No, I don't want to say I hate the environment, right? Because that's not true. But I think for me, I think what I'm curious for him to do is think about people like me who we don't have a recycling of recycling in Nashville is not easy, or at least it only comes once a month, and it's trying to get people who because I think there's a lot of people on the sidelines who are I care about the environment, I want to do something, and how do I get started, but make it easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the barrier of app use is very low here. Looking through it, there's things about walking, there's things about eating organic food. It's not I don't think it's just about composting and recycling and how much did you do to offset your carbon footprint by these huge things that are talked about by everybody, but what small things can you do, or what small things can you track, right? And I don't even think that you have to be a huge environmentalist, right? Or what do they call a tree hugger, right? I don't think you need to do that to use the app. I think that a lot of people, I think our generation, the generations beyond or behind us, have really focused on sustainability and what does the planet look like moving forward, right?
Correct.
We're finally closing the ozone layer as a society, right? So doing those small things, I think that we talk about it a little bit more, right? I live downtown in a high rise, right? We almost never talk about where are we going to go drive to get food. It's let's go walk somewhere, right? Or in your community, what are you doing to say, hey, maybe I do buy the apple that's 10 cents more because it is organic, and what kind of things can I do to help make my small part of the environment better, right? And I don't think that you have to, compost pounds of food every day to be able to, use the app. And I do
because that's what I think, right? I think compost, tree hug,
public transportation,
I'm trying to think of other things,
how many trees did you plant, right? But I think that the app is encouraging. If you go on, it's super easy, super simple to use. You go on and say, hey, even these very small things that I'm doing can make an impact, right? Hey, I threw away I brought in a bottle of water instead of using this plastic thing, right? But hey, maybe in there, instead of using this once, maybe I go to the refrigerator and fill it back up with water rather than throwing this out and getting a new one, right? So I think those small behaviors can really add up when you're talking about, 300 and some odd million Americans and 8 billion people around the world. If 8 billion people twice a month, instead of throwing away the water bottle after they used it each time, instead filled it up and used it throughout the day, even if they threw it away at the end of the day and they went through one water bottle instead of 5, and it's a reminder, because I think people are conscious enough to think of those small reminders of hey, if this app's there, it's on my home screen, I click on it and said, did you use a water bottle today instead of using a plastic water bottle? You might just be encouraged. Yeah.
Right. Almost prompting. You could almost do a push daily summary, and it prompts you did you use your own water bottle? Did you buy water bottles? Right. And it's kind of because I'm just trying to think and also too, Nick, I see you watching backstage. For me, I think from he's talking about putting out content, which I'm super passionate about. We're all super passionate about branding content. That's what I would put out if I were Nick. I wouldn't probably talk about Viro right now. I would just talk about, hey, did you know that literally using your own water bottle instead of buying a water bottle could decrease your, and it's just it's constant education, right?
Right.
Because I think go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Because my thing is, if I see Nick pop on my LinkedIn going, hey, did you know that if you're at your desk and you just use the same water bottle all day, you're able to reduce something? And then I go, oh shit, I do that. And then I'm going to click and I'm going to see what else he's a part of. And then that's what leads to Viro, right?
And imagine a reward is like a water bottle, right? Like you partner, there's a company called Circle here in Tampa. They do like flavored water drinks, but they also have water bottles. Like imagine a corporation like them saying, hey, you know, for people that are maybe heavy water drinkers, you know, I don't know how the point system works, right? But you know, we'll send you a water bottle. It's great for them, right? Because now they make you a user of their product. But also, if you didn't use 30 water bottles in a month, the offset is huge. And now you have a product in hand that's environmentally more sustainable, and you're discouraging a behavior, right? Because I think that that's ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, hey, if I can look on here and these very, very small changes that I can make can have this amount of impact. And listen, I don't know science, right? Like I don't know how much 3 pounds.
I took self-paced
of
astronomy
CO2.
in college to not take science classes.
That doesn't surprise me. But right, I don't know how much 3 pounds is, but like if I'm able to save that, like I don't know, I feel like people are jived up about that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I think
and
so
I'm
too.
even completely skipping over the ESG part and the environment.
Because I know there's a big push for it, because I even know
corporate governance piece. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Vaco in Nashville, like I don't know, there's like a plaque in our lobby for being like green certified something or other, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I know
well, there's that, but they're building it into like requirements within the SEC for publicly traded companies about what are you doing for the environment.
So like a company could basically buy or use Viro to almost become compliant. Like Viro could be like a checklist, maybe.
I don't know if it's a compliance thing. I don't know how ESG regulation works. It's slightly outside of my pay grade.
Right.
But what it could do as an organization, right? Like, and a lot of ESG is also about awareness of what we're doing. Imagine if you're a 10,000 person publicly traded company, you have 30% adoption of Viro or whatever, right? But if you can say, hey, we offset 100,000 pounds of CO2 over the course of a year, like that's something that's going to resonate, right? Like even if a lot of those users that are using it were already doing these things, if you can build that in and you can, you know, amalgamate all of that data in together, like that helps with even some of the PR piece of it, right? I'm not saying that we should do this for PR, but like you start to think of all of the different ways that it can go. I don't know. I think it's a really, really neat idea. And I'm very surprised that like somebody hasn't done it, right?
Yeah. So props to you, Nick. Props to you. All right. Well, cool. Well, again, Dan, it was good chatting with you, buddy. We're pretty booked on guests for the next few weeks. So next week we got we have actually it's Nick's buddy, who's also my buddy too, Shane Snipeman. And he's developed an app called Strum, which is in the booking space for music. So kind of still in the music vein. So Shane's going to come on next week. I've known Shane for a while. So Nick, I appreciate you making that intro. I believe it was Nick. But anyways, Nick, love your product. Love Viro. Best of luck. Best of success. And we'll see all of y'all next week. Peace.